According to an Inside Crime report, some of the most powerful Venezuelan drug cartels and so-called megabands have created over the last few months different community organizations and even foundations in order to have more control of the different small slums and territories where they operate. Apparently, one of the most efficient strategies they are using to gain more control of these particular territories all around the country is essentially by using these organizations and foundations to make donations and, of course, to provide food and medicine to the people who live in these particular zones. These criminal groups, these criminal organizations have managed to make this happen because of the extreme poverty that the South American nation is currently suffering, and of course the lack of state presence in some of the most populous slums across Venezuela. The report of Inside Crime explains that the other control strategies that these groups have been implementing unfortunately include restricting food access, mutilations, and even massacres. Over the last few months, we have seen a lot of violence in these zones, and almost every single case of this violence is explained by this particular strategy to implement fear among these populations and get more control of it. Apparently, some of the most important bands and criminals that decided to create these communities organizations in Venezuela include El Tren de Aragua, gang leader Carlos Enrique Gómez, alias El Conejo, Organización R, and even the Barrancas Syndicate. This is a pretty concerning situation because Venezuela over the last few years has been basically the most dangerous country in Latin America. Given the fact that the homicide rate in Venezuela has been extremely high, with a percentage that is even higher than the ones of many violent countries such as Mexico, Brazil, and of course even Honduras. So while Venezuela was already a little bit dangerous, while the homicide rate and criminality in Venezuela started to rise since the 80s, the rise of Hugo Chavez, of former dictator Hugo Chavez, represented a huge boom in criminality, and in part some of these criminal bands were created basically by the same Venezuelan regime in order to have more control of different slums in different cities of the country, especially Caracas, where the state never reached. So in order to get more control and to have essentially the hand of the regime on these particular slums, the Chavismo essentially created these bands, which eventually some of them turned into what is currently called the colectivos. Reporting from Medellin, Colombia, Luis Orozco, Newsweek.